Welcome back, Redemption Builders. Today's lesson is well-being. A quick lesson that I learned from Marshawn Lynch, also known as Beast Mode, the NFL football player who retired and came back recently and still had a stellar season. In one of his closing season interviews, some advice that he gave to young men and the young football players were to, and it sounds funny, but he said to take care of your mental and take care of your chicken. Mental being your behavioral health and your chicken being your money. He said, because he's been on the other side. I've been on the other side and it's good over there, but you want to enjoy what you have when you're on the other side. Other side being retirement. And for us, that principle applies as well. We're not just supposed to work here and die, or work until the day that we die, or work just to survive. We're supposed to have some good things on the other side. So today we want to talk about well-being. And in well-being, we're going to talk about these three things here: stress management, your behavioral health, and your physical health. First, stress management. Stress is something that we all deal with. It's not something that any of us can ever go without. It's a natural thing. And sometimes stress actually aids us in becoming better leaders. But stress management is very important. How do you manage your stress? Are you able to start fresh every day? Or do you have the same baggage that you've had from 20 years ago on your shoulders and it's stressing you out to the point that you can't operate? Stress management is very important. You have to be able to decompress. You have to be able to unload. You have to be able to leave work at work. And be able to really get to our second point: manage your behavioral health. Behavioral health is your emotions and how that really determines your behaviors. And psychology, sociology, those things, and even your mental health counseling. How do you manage that? How do you manage what's going on in your world when you're mentally and physically fatigued? How do you manage those things? Do you have an outlet? Talking about starting fresh, as we talked about with your stress management, how do you start fresh? Do you just go home and go to sleep? Do you go home and talk to somebody about it? You go home and pray about it? How do you overcome those obstacles? How do you overcome stress that seems to be pervasive every single day, pushing against you, making you act out of character? How do you overcome that stress? You need to find a way. There's resources out there. Children's Home Society that does mental health counseling for kids as well as adults. There's EPIC, behavioral health. If you have issues with substances, there's so many resources out there. And there's church. There's your spiritual aspect, where you can develop spiritually and learn more about yourself. I practice a brand of Christianity called Practical Christianity. I just don't want you to go to church and have this emotional and spiritual high. I want you to be able to carry out what we're teaching in church in your daily life. So church is one of those other resources. So we've got to be able to have good behavioral health to be a good leader. And then lastly, physical health. That's a tough one. Every year or every summer season is something that everybody kind of tries to get back in shape and tries to work on. But physical health, if you're not healthy, if you're not, the mental health and emotional health, I think is more important than your physical health. But if you're not healthy, you can't operate, you can't function. You can't do the things that you want to do when you need to do it. Everybody's watching the Michael Jordan documentary right now, and him and Kobe and even LeBron, they're very similar in this aspect. They train so hard and they spend so much money on their bodies because they want their body to do what it needs to do when they need to do it. So when they want to jump, when they want to go for that steal, when they want to retreat and measure things up and find the open guy in the corner, they need to be able to do that. So that's why they train. That's why their physical health is that way. But the same thing goes for us. We got to be able to train our bodies and our minds and our physical health in a way that we can operate. We can't be sick all the time and be a great leader. So those are the lessons. That's the lesson for today. Well-being. Even the syntax of that word, we're not talking about just being healthy or overcoming sickness. We're talking about maintaining wellness. How do you maintain that wellness? That's these three things here. There's some other aspects that we're going to talk about later that are going to help you maintain your health or your well-being. And stick with me. Come back next week and check it out. We'll close with our Redemption Builders mantra. I respect myself. I respect others. I influence every environment that I am in. Thank you. See you next week.